Alright, so last night when I made the video on the rigged Warriors Thunders game that was on March 3rd, for whatever the reason I remembered this stat and it just stuck out to me a lot because the word championship equals 131 and whatnot. And they gave us the stat that Steph Curry has 130 straight games with a three. So the next game, the Warriors are playing the Los Angeles Lakers, which is tomorrow on February or March 6th, 3-6. And more than likely, he's going to hit a three-pointer and make it 131 straight games with a three. Just interesting because not only will he make 131 straight games with a three, it's exactly 131 days after the NBA season began on October 27th. But disregard this right here. I just made a mistake. For some reason, I was thinking that his birthday was on March 11th, but it's actually March 14th. I knew that. I don't know when I was writing this. My brain just must have got flustered or whatever. But anyway, in this post, I talk about the number 923. It was a super big deal with Pope Francis. He came to the United States on his 923rd day as Pope. A bunch more that I'll talk about again in a second, but I remember that the Golden State Warriors had a big connection to Pope Francis and whatnot. And I also remember that LeBron James was 9 of 23 on November 4th this year in a game. And it was a game after he was 9 of 19. And it was right after the World Series and whatnot. And in game one of the World Series, the power went out, or the television broadcast went out at 9:19 p.m. and it came back on at 9:23 p.m. Pope Francis began his trip to the United States on 9/19, or he went to Cuba on 9/19, and then he came to the United States on 9/22, his 923rd day as Pope. He went to the White House at 9:23 on 9/23. Tons of other stuff with it, so I just decided to look and see if Curry would ever shot 9 of 23 in a game. And no lie, he's only done it 3 times. The first time that he ever did it was when they lost to the Chicago Bulls, the last time that they lost a home game. When they beat the Thunder on March 3rd, they just tied the Bulls record for 44 consecutive home game wins. And then they'll be going for their 45th on March 7th, on Monday. Well, anyway, look, Curry shot 9 of 23 on that game. It was the first time he'd ever shot 9 of 23. It was also 239 days before Pope Francis came to the White House on 9/23 at 9/23. We talked about it in other countries, they write the date 9/23. They write it as 23-9, kind of like 239. We're also in the 239th year of the United States. So, I mean, what are the odds of that? 239 days before 9/23, Curry shoots 9/23, 9 of 23. And wouldn't you believe it, the next time that Curry shot 9 of 23 just so happened to be 4 days after this game. The day that the Warriors' 44 home game win streak began. This was the first game of it. Curry shot 9 of 23. It was also on January 31st, 131. 131 or also 31-1. I mentioned a ton of the 113 references in the last 4 videos. Michael Jordan and Gematria even equals 113. Interesting, Curry also scored 25 points. And the third and last time that he shot 9 of 23, he also scored 25 points that game as well. Also, January 31st to last year, the beginning of the NBA Finals, is a span of 4 months and 4 days. This was also 1 year, 1 month, and 3 days before they broke the 44 game or tied the 44 game win streak. And then it was also 4 months and 4 days before the NBA playoffs began, or NBA Finals began. 11 days later last year, after this game, that's when Curry shot his 9 of 23 again. It was against the Minnesota Timberwolves. He also scored 25 points. And I mean, look at this. 113 days before the NBA Finals began last year. I made a ton of videos about Teen Wolf in regards to the slam dunk contest and Lupercalia and how it tied into Space Jam and all kinds of stuff. So interesting, it happened against the Timberwolves. It was also 113 days before the NBA Finals. So, I mean, like I said, all these games are always coded to other events. It's not nothing to do with the game itself. It's always coded to some other type of event. Which a big deal was that Pope Francis came to the United States and went to the White House and all that. The first game that Curry ever won as an NBA player was on 11/4/09. They beat the Grizzlies, and they scored 113 points. The date numerology of the day, 11 plus 4 plus 20 plus 9, was even 44. The Warriors played the Cavs 2 times last season. The first was on January 9th, which was 146 days before the NBA Finals. Just sticks out a little bit. I've been mentioning the 146. I've noticed it in the month of February. A lot of stuff happened on the same day, and the stuff added up to 146. Oakland, California also equals 146 in gematria. That's where the Warriors play. You just had the part owner of the Oklahoma City Thunder who died in a car crash. And when they showed the wreckage scene or whatever, they had that big sign that said 14-6 on it. The second time the Warriors played Cleveland was on February 26, 2/26, or also 26-2. I mentioned a lot about the 26-62 that went along with the Warriors even got their 26th home game win this year, 26-0 this year. Lots of other stuff with that. The last time they played Oklahoma City was on, or the first time they played Oklahoma City this year was on 2-6. And then the third time that they beat them, third and last time, was on 26 days later. It was also the Thunder's 62nd game. A lot of that, I talked about a lot of that in the previous video. Also, during this game, the Warriors lost by 11. Interesting, I've been talking about how the number 11 seems to be a winning number, but then the Warriors lost by 11 in that game. This game was also 98 days before the NBA Finals began. Remember in Game 1 of the NBA Finals, it went to overtime 98-98. But it was also, the total score of the game was 99-110, which adds up to 209, which was also 209 days before September 23rd. Cleveland even had 99 points. September 23rd leaves 99 days left until the end of the year. And remember, LeBron James in Jewish gematria equals 923. He was in the movie Trainwreck this summer. Trainwreck equals 122. Pope Francis equals 122 in gematria. Golden State equals 122. In the movie Trainwreck, it begins on the opening scene when Amy Schumer is 9 years old, and the rest of the movie takes place 23 years later. We also talked about the connections with the Philadelphia train wreck that happened on May 12th last year. It happened at 9:23 p.m. Train wreck. The Golden State Warriors, originally from Philadelphia. And look at this. This year, the NBA Finals begin on June 2nd. It's 113 days before September 23rd this year. I mean, what are the odds of that? You can't tell me that's a coincidence. I mean, I've been documenting so much of this stuff over and over that there's no coincidence. All planned. So LeBron has only shot 9 of 23 5 times in his career. The first time was on 3/17/2006 against the Blazers. He played 44 minutes. They even won 99-84. Remember, 99 goes along with September 23rd. There's 99 days left until the end of the year. He was 9 of 23 for the second time on January 19th of 2007. Also played 44 minutes. And they also lost with 99 points. They lost by 11. If you go from the first time to the second time, it's a span of exactly 44 weeks. The third time that he went 9 of 23, they lost to the Spurs in the NBA Finals on June 12th of 2007. He played 42 minutes. Just interesting, his name in Gematria equals 42 in Pythagorean Gematria, 114 in simple English Gematria. It was also 144 days after the second time that he went 9 of 23. 144, super special number. Even the word 44 that I've been mentioning, 44 equals 144. Also just so happened to be 4 months, 24 days. The 24, 42 mirrors. Remember, LeBron equals 42. Or LeBron James equals 42. The fourth time that he was 9 of 23 was against Boston in the playoffs on May 16th of 2008. Just so happened to be 11 months, 4 days after the third time that he was 9 of 23. Remember his name in simple English Gematria, 114. 11 and 4, 114. The fifth time and the last time that he was 9 of 23, I guess he went 6 times because he did it again this year. But the fifth time that he did, it was against Miami when he still played with Cleveland. And then the next season was when he went to Cleveland. So he did it on 1/25 of 2010. The first game that LeBron played the Cavs as a Miami player was on 12/2 of 2010, 12/2, 1/22. It also just so happened to be 311 days after he went 9 of 23 against Miami. The 3-1-1, 1-1-3. And the sixth and last time that LeBron was 9 of 23 was what I talked about in the very beginning. It was on November 4th, 2015. 114. LeBron James equals 114 and 42. In Jewish Gematria, 923. It also just so happened to be 42 days after 923, when the Pope went to the White House at 923 on 923. Also interesting is that it was 51 days before the Warriors and the Cavs played this year. And 51 is a big number with Cleveland and whatnot. Cleveland equals 51. LeBron James equals 51 with the S exception. Cleveland Cavs equals 51. Lupercalia begins on 2/13, the 44th day of the year. This year, the date numerology of that day added up to 51. Antonin Scalia equals 51. He died on that day. Oklahoma had a 5.1 earthquake on that day. Antonin in Jewish Gematria equals 522. He was the judge, just like the word justice. They even talked about how he went quail hunting the day before he died, which reminded you of the Dick Cheney hunting accident that happened exactly 522 weeks before Scalia died. He also had the death of John Hot Rod Williams this year, a former Cleveland Cavalier. He died on December 11th. He died 5 months, 22 days before the NBA Finals began this year. So, super interesting. It's also Cleveland teams have not won a sports title in 51 years. So it would be a fitting year for them to win. One thing that has me wondering about it, though, is since it was on the date numerology of the 44th day was 51, and you had the earthquake, and you had Scalia die and whatnot, maybe it's not such a good thing to be a 51. The NBA Finals begin on a date numerology of 44, so maybe it's not such a good thing to be a 51 on a 44. Who knows? Also interesting, the day that LeBron was 9 of 23 to the day they first played the Warriors was also a span of 1 month, 21 days. Warriors in Gematria equals 121. And of course, the Warriors originally from Philadelphia. Philadelphia is in the book of Revelation. Revelation equals 121. But see ya in part 2.